Hi everyone, thank you for tuning into this video. Again, my name is Gia. So today in this video, I want to share a few tips on how to reconnect to our emotions. And this can be challenging at first if you have lived quite a long period of your life disconnected from your emotions. And it's also important to realize that by reconnecting to our feelings, to our emotions, we can learn to build a deeper and more enhanced relationship with other people. And then also we learn to use our emotions to our advantage rather than repressing our emotions and repeating the same cycle of everyday life. So I've worked with people that have really disconnected from their emotional states, which they often describe as numb. And I've also met a lot of people who have just generally disconnected from their emotions and operate primarily from their head and up. So the first tip on how to reconnect to our emotions if it has been disconnected is to, first of all, realize that you are disconnected from your emotions. Also, admit the fact that it is potentially affecting your relationship with other people. Emotions are one of the basic components of human abilities. We use our emotions to connect with other people and to communicate with other people. Depending on how connected we are emotionally and vulnerable we are willing to be, the depth of the connection with those people around us would vary. So no matter how much you're trying to hide your emotions or repress your emotions, for those other people who have really channeled into their emotions would recognize and feel the lack of emotions or the disconnected emotions that you are experiencing essentially. So in a way, there is not so much that you can hide to a certain degree. So the big key here is to acknowledge and admit how much of your disconnected emotional lifestyle is affecting your life, is affecting your relationship with others. And that's the crucial first step of doing emotional reconnection work. Second tip I want to share is to be willing to go back to some of those childhood memories that might bring up some intense, difficult emotions. Oftentimes, childhood memories are moments in which we actually begin to disconnect from our feelings, and this can be a healthy defense mechanism to a certain level during that childhood. But as adults, when we continue on with this pattern of disconnection from our emotions, then we begin to build walls around us. There are certain clothing and outfits that really fit us and make sense to us during our childhood, but as we grow up, it no longer fits and it just doesn't work overall. And this is a great example. A lot of defense mechanisms that we take on as a way to protect ourselves no longer becomes functional or healthy way of defense mechanism when we grow up. The third tip is to reflect and observe yourself in terms of what kind of pattern that you have, whether you are a thinker or a feeler. So it's about gaining self-knowledge on your tendencies and your patterns. So thinkers tend to be quite analytical and they like to interpret situations in their life. So it could be as simple as, let's say somebody passes by you, walk by you, and you might have witnessed their facial expression and you start interpreting that facial expression and you might think about what it can mean to you. You might even listen to what they're saying and analyze if what they're saying is true or not. So it's very much about working from our headspace. Feelers are literally feelers. They operate primarily from their intuition and their feeling states, their emotions. So given the same scenario, somebody passes by them, they might be more channeled into how that person that just passed by, that person's demeanor is affecting how they feel. Perhaps the experience might elicit certain emotions or memories that they might have had. So their knowledge, their self-knowledge primarily comes from their bodily sensations, their intuitions, and their feelings. Their feeling responds to their outer world. So they really understand and perceive the world by tuning into other people, tuning into other people's emotions and feeling states. So it's really not about which one is better or not. It's about bringing balance to that feeling part of ourselves and the thinking part of ourselves to use our human body, our human capacity to the fullest. The next tip I want to share is to be willing to be a little bit more vulnerable than you might be right now. And this can be quite challenging, especially you have really closed yourself up from being vulnerable and open to other people about your inner world or your deep repressed emotions, perhaps. So this practice is about being vulnerable for your own self, not to please others or not to give any certain kind of impression for others. So this practice is primarily for yourself, to develop yourself. For many people, it's a lot easier to start their sentences when they talk with I think rather than I feel. And for some people might start their sentence with I feel, but they complete the sentence with an analytical statement, such as, for example, you might hear people say, I feel like that person's treating me unfairly, rather than I feel hurt and upset that the person's treating me unfairly. So it takes quite a bit of practice to be able to be vulnerable to your own feelings and to share that and to express that to others in social settings. The last tip that I want to share is, in order to connect to our feelings, we all have to be willing to feel the discomfort of certain emotions that we have and also be willing to express them in a healthy manner. So I've worked with people that are quite easily triggered, and it might come into forms of anger and frustration, and their outlet of expressing those emotions can be quite violent, out of control, or even self-harm. And these kind of unhealthy behaviors tend to bring up more emotions of shame and frustration, which end up wanting them to repress their emotions even more, believing that emotional expression is not healthy or does not work for them. So what's important is to allow yourself to feel some of those feelings that are causing discomfort and learn to sit with it a little bit longer and find ways to express it in a healthy outlet. So some people around me like to express their emotions through art, through doodling, drawing, painting. Some like to just exercise and ride bike. I've met people who just constantly journal, and it's their way of processing their information, processing their feelings through writing. And also, if any of these tools that you have used that have worked in the past stops working at some point in your life, don't get discouraged and try to find other outlets that do work for you at the moment in time. So these are some tips I wanted to share in terms of reconnecting to our emotions, especially some of our shadows and some of the difficult emotions that we often are not accustomed to opening up and sharing and being vulnerable towards. So I hope this video was helpful for you in some way. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will leave my contact information above. And until then, I will see you next time. Thank you.